We haven't had a returning player Survivor season in over 4 years and counting, which is a long ass time, and that's only going to continue to grow. But while we wait for those rumors to buzz whenever the next returning player season is on its way, I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and talk through one of my favorite little pieces of Survivor history. Of all of the returning player seasons and the casting processes, my favorite casting process to break down has always been Blood vs. Water Season 27. Now, before even breaking any of it down, the cast that we got was a very random bunch. Obviously, with the theme of Blood vs. Water, you need to have a returning player, but also make sure the loved one they have with them is a unique character as well. Which left us with Colton Cumbie, Kat, Laura Moret, paired with winners like Tina and Aras, with big characters like Jervis, Rupert, and Tyson. It's an insane batch of characters, but in an alternate timeline, this cast could have been even crazier. This is infamously known by those who are chronically online as the season where they called everybody to see if they were willing to come back. And that checks out here. I wanted to go through a list of 44 players, 44 former Survivor players who were contacted, went through casting, cut last minute, or straight up declined the offer to be a part of this Blood vs. Water season. And at the very end, see how crazy a cast we could have gotten. There are a lot of people from nearly every season of Survivor up to season 26, and I'll talk through them all from season 1 to season 26 because there are some names I was shocked were called and nearly made it onto the season by doing my research. Shout out to Reddit, Wikipedia, fan-made websites, and anything else for providing this information that I will be using in this video. If you guys enjoyed this type of video and want to see me do this again with another returning player season of Survivor, just let me know down in the comments below. And without further ado, I'm ready to break down all 44 potential players and their loved ones that were in consideration to be on Survivor Blood vs. Water. Dating all the way back to Survivor Borneo, we actually had some Borneo representation on the season with Jervis and his niece Marissa. But imagine a world in which the one and only Greg Buis was on this season. He was contacted and asked to play with his sister Julie. You know, that sister.
Sounded like Greg was talking maybe incest.
Imagine if we lived in that world, because Greg declined the offer, which he does with most of the returning player seasons, but I'm almost certain if Greg said yes, he would have been on this cast. We got a few players from the Australian Outback, one of those being the infamous Jerri Manthey, who could have been a 4-time Survivor player. She was asked to play with her sister Jenny, but Jenny unfortunately had to back out due to her pregnancy, and Jerry's backup partner also had to back out, so Jerry wasn't able to compete. Former Survivor winner and Winners at War contestant Amber Burkich Mariano was asked to play, but declined the offer, saying her Survivor experience was done with. Funny enough, Roger Bingham, of all people from the Australian Outback, was contacted to play alongside his daughter Angela. They were eventually dropped pretty early on into casting. Survivor Africa had a good chunk of people who were asked, and it's a real shame none of them were able to make it onto the final cast. Somehow, someway, the first boot of the season, Diane Ogden, was contacted for the season, competing alongside her son, who was a big fan of Survivor and wanted to play, but Diane ended up declining the offer herself. Kelly Goldsmith was somebody production really wanted to make a long-awaited return for the season. There were considerations to compete with her fiance, but she can never find a certified loved one that was able to commit to the show and compete alongside her. Big Tom, part of the original Big Three, was contacted and compete on this season, but ended up declining due to the production of A Family Beef, a show I guess he was starring in at the time. And then another member of the Big Three, Mr. Lex Vandenberg, was contacted for the show as well, but declined due to being a part of Family Beef with Tom as well, but also due to not wanting to compete alongside a family member in the game. Moving on to Survivor Marquesas, the one and only Boston Rob Mariano was contacted for the season, but declined because his Survivor journey was done in his mind. Little did they know he would technically come back 2 more times, but shh, don't tell him that now. Sean Rector was also rumored to have been contacted. This is probably one of the more speculated names on the list because there's no certainty confirmation. He either declined or didn't make it very far in casting. It was one of the two. We can skip Thailand for obvious reason. Production wanted nothing to do with that season, but we have one lone call that we got from the Amazon, and that's the Podfather himself, Rob Cesternino, but he ended up declining the offer. Pearl Islands had one confirmed person that was called, and that was the queen herself, Sandra Diaz Twine, who was asked to compete alongside her daughter Nina. Yes, We're talking about two-time Australian Survivor player Nina, but the pair was cut on the final day of casting. I can't believe Survivor US fumbled the ball so hard to not only not get Sandra, the only two-time winner, back, but get her daughter, who proved to be a star in an entirely different Survivor franchise. Shame on you, Survivor. On to Survivor Vanuatu, a criminally underrated season of Survivor. We had some candidates contacted, one of which being Eliza Orleans. She was cut pretty early into the casting process, unfortunately. The runner-up of the season, Twyla Tanner, was also contacted, but kind of like Eliza, was cut pretty early into casting. And the winner of the season, Vanuatu, Chris Doherty, was contacted, but it's not confirmed on if he either declined or was cut because he didn't make it very far into the casting process. Love the Vanuatu representation though, even if none of them made the cast. Survivor Palau had a couple of contacts, one of which being Bobby John, of all people. This man could have been a 3-time Survivor player in an alternate universe, but he didn't make it very far into casting. Tom Westman was heavily sought after to compete on this season. He ended up declining the offer due to his health issues, which unfortunately is also the reason he couldn't compete on Winners at War. I think this was kind of the last opportunity to get Tom Westman back on Survivor, but he's already won. He's a legend. Good for him. That Guatemala representation, I know that's right. The first one is a little weird, but I'll never complain about Guatemala getting some love. Jamie Newman was considered to play at one time, but never actually went through with the casting process. Judd Sargent was also called to play this season with his wife, but his wife was unable to at the time, so he ended up dropping. Cindy Hall, the icon, was also contacted, but cut early into casting. So we were robbed of getting our first returning player from Survivor Guatemala until Danny Boatwright would break that curse in Survivor Winners at War. Survivor Panama had some stars on the cast. Obviously, Aris was literally on the season, but we had some more icons who could have nearly been casted. Shane Powers could have been on the season with his son. Imagine that. He ended up declining the season, thinking it would be too hard emotionally to play against his son in the game. But man, this combined with Cambodia really crushes my heart that we're probably never going to see Shane Powers again. And then we could have had Cirie Fields back on our screens. She was eventually dropped from the cast because her original partner and backup partner couldn't make it. Thank God she came back on 3 different shows after this, or else I would have been heartbroken by this news. Terry Dietz was one of the closest players to make it onto this cast that was eventually dropped. He was set to play with his daughter, but was cut on the final day of casting, so we were this close. And considering how his run on Cambodia went, we were also robbed of seeing Terry back for a legitimate season of Survivor. Cook Islands is a cast of 2 halves. Some of the most iconic characters in Survivor history paired with some of the biggest duds in Survivor history. And somehow, out of everybody, Christina somehow was contacted to be on the season. She was asked to compete alongside an actor she was dating at the time, who I guess is a big reason why she was contacted, so they could get him on, but she just had surgery, so she had to decline the offer. Luckily for Survivor production, they course-corrected themselves and considered Jonathan Penner, baby. He could have competed with his son. Unfortunately, his son was too young at the time, so they ended up not going through with the casting process. They keep on delivering. Parvati Shallow was also contacted to play, but she would decline because she didn't think she could compete against a loved one, which is valid, but damn, this cast could have been stacked. We'll end off Cook Islands representation with the Jungle Man Ozzy. Ozzy was contacted and wanted to play with his sister, but was cut pretty early into casting, which is a little funny and adds some truth into a rumor that production didn't actually want Ozzy on Survivor Game Changers, but CBS forced their hand to cast him. I don't know, it's a weird relationship, but Ozzy's been fun, and it could have been interesting. There's only one man that was considered from Fiji, and it's none other than the King of Fiji, Earl Cole. He was contacted, but declined. A massive tragedy, especially after the Winners at War snub. Oh well. To my knowledge, we can actually skip the next 2 seasons of China and Micronesia and head to Gabon. And I'm a Gaboner, so I'll always stand Gabon representation. And the gamer boy Kenny was contacted to be on this season. He would eventually be cut, though, during casting. Moving to Tocantins, we could have had Erin competing alongside her husband at the time. Unfortunately, the filming of the season conflicted with their actual wedding, so she had to decline. Robbed of Tyson vs. Erin Part 2. Only one person realistically was getting the call from Survivor Samoa, and it's Russell Hantz, because duh. He declined though, and thank God he did. Imagine Russell Hantz 4 times in 4 years. That's some psychopath shit. Survivor Nicaragua had 2 contacts that both didn't make the cut, one of which being Mr. Marty Piombo. He was contacted to play with either his wife or his son. It's not confirmed which one. Either way, he was cut. Jane Bright, the rival to Marty and fan favorite somehow, was also contacted to play, but cut pretty early into casting, so I don't know. But imagine that universe where both Marty and Jane are second chancers. What the hell? Holly Hoffman was also contacted to be on the season. Kind of insane how 3 players from Nicaragua got a call. Good for them, but obviously Holly didn't make the cast and didn't make it very far into casting at that. Into the depths of the Dark Ages with Survivor Redemption Island, the Golden Boy, Mike Chisel, was asked to compete alongside his wife, but they couldn't due to his wife's pregnancy at the time. Ashley Underwood, the near winner of Redemption Island, was contacted to play, but was dropped due to her first partner and her backup partner being unable to compete. 2 wild choices from Survivor South Pacific. One being Jim Rice, who was contacted to compete with his wife, but they were eventually cut during casting. And the other was Edna. Like Edna. What the fuck? She was cut early into casting. I don't know why. It just kind of makes me laugh thinking of like everyone in Survivor history. We nearly got an Edna return. Go Queen. Nearing the end with Survivor One World. And again, one of the players that was dangerously close to making the cast was Troyzan and his brother Todd. This makes sense considering Survivor's desperate attempts to get Troyzan back on Survivor after this. They were eventually cut a week before filming, but I think it's fine, and I don't think we missed much, unfortunately. Maybe a Troyzan more recently connected with One World would have been something, but obviously Game Changers brought us basically nothing. And the runner-up of the season, Chelsea, was also contacted for the season, but didn't make it very far in casting and was cut eventually. Survivor Philippines, and we have somebody here who was on the cast. They made it. They were going to be on the season, but were dropped at the very last minute. That person being RC. She was set to compete alongside her dad, Craig. They were set up to go, but right before filming, Craig had high blood pressure while testing, and they had to be dropped from the season. This is what got Candace and her husband John on the season at the last minute, and also why Candace got voted out first on her tribe because she was the alternate. So there's some Survivor lore. RC was literally on this cast and this close to being back on our TV screens. And the other player who was contacted was the winner in Denise Stapley, but she declined the offer, which is fair, considering she had just won Survivor less than a year ago. Why would you come back? Here we are, on to the last season, and the final person to somewhat public knowledge that was contacted for the season was Reynold, the likable underdog who just wasn't that good at the game. But yeah, he was asked and ended up declining because he was just getting married. And that is all 44 people that, through my research, were contacted but not cast one way or another for Survivor Blood vs. Water. I want to do one last thing before I go and kind of create a new cast of Survivor Blood vs. Water, taking some of the people who were already on the cast and add in some of the people who were pretty close to being on the cast and see what this new cast looks like. This is kind of a fantasy cast, but I want to be a little realistic here, so I'm not going to add anybody who said no because you can't exactly change that. You can only add those who are willing to be on. To start, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm adding the Queen to this cast. Sandra Diaz-Twine and Nina would have devoured, and yes, I'm happy we have Nina on Australian Survivor, but Nina could have been a star on the US series. To add them, we gotta drop some people, and I think I'm gonna replace one of the winners and drop Tina and Katie, because it's 1, a mom and daughter pair, 2, a winner, and 3, a female-female loved one relationship. This just needed to happen, no offense to Tina. What are you gonna do about it? It's the Queen. I think literally anybody could have been better casting than Colton Cumbie, and no disrespect to Caleb, may he rest in peace, but for the sake of the video, I'm replacing them with Troyzan and his brother Todd. Yes, Troyzan was boring on Game Changers, but this is pretty recent after One World, and I can only hope with the full cast that isn't just returning players, we get some of that old Troyzan spunk. Even then, I know he'll give us more than Colton gave us, cause oh my god. I'll never forget Fuck You Brad Culpepper as long as I live, and it's engraved into my brain, but I'm way too curious to see what RC would do on a second time out. She was cast on the season, she was right there. It's too tempting to not replace Candace and John and see what RC and her dad are made of. And god damn it, I want to see Terry Dietz and his daughter play and have a real shot without the outside family emergency business. And I'm so willing to cut Rupert and Laura for this to happen. It was Rupert's 4th time out, like, What else is he bringing to the show? And I think Laura gets voted out first every time, meaning Rupert switches with her every time, and I just don't care enough. And I need to see Terry back out there and pick up that rivalry with Aris again. I'm telling you, it all fits together, and this cast might have created a season even more iconic than the one that we got. What a chaotic-ass group, and I would be set to watch them all play it out again. Does Tyson still take the crown? How does Sandra do? Because at this point, she's still 2 for 2. Does Terry dominate Redemption Island? So many questions. I need answers to this hypothetical universe. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing a Brant Steele. Whatever. I'm sorry that the photos aren't loading. I'm really bad at this Brant Steele thing. Maybe I'll learn eventually, because I do enjoy Brant Steele's, but I don't know how it works. So I couldn't get the photos to work. But this is the cast that we got. I'm excited to see what happens. And let's see what type of season we get. Oh my god, it went to Rocks on the first vote out, and Monica got voted out. Oh, Tyson got voted out. Holy shit. Laura, the Redemption Island Queen, can she do it? Does she do it? Jervis is eliminated first. Brad is second. Laura wins Redemption Island again. Look at this merge tribe. RC, Todd, Choizen, Hayden, Kat, Sierra, Laura, Terry, Nina, Sandra, Rachel. Oh, Sandra played the idol. Oh my god. Nina voted her mom. Oh my god. Troy Sandra. Oh my god, Sandra just got robbed. Holy shit. Sandra won a duel. Cat is out. What the fuck is happening? This is the final 5. Todd, Sierra, Terry, Nina, and Rachel. Todd swaps and goes to Redemption Island. Troy Sand's back in the game. They'll compete and the winner returns to the game. Terry's out. Sandra's out. Todd is back in the game. Todd and Troy Zan. Oh my god. Sierra, Todd, Sierra, Todd. There's a tie and a revote. First vote, Todd, Sierra. Fire making challenge. Todd has lost. Oh my god. Oh my god. The final 3 is Sierra, Nina, and Rachel. And the jury is Hayden, Kat, Laura, RC, Sandra, Terry, Todd, and Troy Zan. First vote goes to Nina. 1 vote Sierra. 2 votes Nina. 2 votes Sierra. 3 votes Nina. 4 votes Nina. And the winner is Nina. Oh my god. Survivor fucked up. Survivor fucked up. We could have had Nina winning the game. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. Look at this fucking shit that just happened. Okay, we're done. That's gonna do it for me. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for plenty of content coming soon. Again, if you want more videos kind of like this one, I'm happy to make them if y'all want. Plenty of other reality TV content coming your way. For now, if you made it to the end of this video, I love ya. Platonically, of course, and I will undoubtedly see ya when I see ya. Bye-bye.